Dr. Christiane Wolf is a mindfulness and compassion teacher and teacher training who also teaches secular and Buddhist classes in the Vipassana insight meditation tradition. She's a published author, a regular contributor to mindfulness magazines, and a speaker. Dr. Christiane Wolf is the co-author of A Clinician's Guide to Teaching Mindfulness and author of Outsmart Your Pain. And so, welcome, Dr. Christiane Wolf.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you, Alex, so much for inviting me. And hello, everyone. I was just like, oh, I see some familiar faces. Yeah, that's so nice. And for those of you I don't know, it's just thank you for having me. And I just feel so delighted to just like look like through the chat box and see like where you all from. That is pretty amazing. And I've seen at least like 2 people from Germany. Hello, hello. I'm a native from Germany, but have been living in the US and in Los Angeles for the last 18 years. Like, it's kind of crazy how that happened. That's a different story. So, yeah, what I would like to do today is a couple of things. So first, before we do anything, I would like us all to just do like a very brief arriving and grounding meditation. So that's always super helpful for me. So even if it feels like a lot to cover, just to arrive. Notice we're here. We're not doing what we have been doing before. So just want to invite us all to just maybe just for a moment, even just like looking around where you are, becoming aware that the room that you're in and the place that you're in, which you might have been at all day, or maybe you just walked over and sat down in this place, but locate yourself in your space for a moment. And then locate yourself with all of us here. So just take a moment, maybe even just, I'm sure you've already done this because like you're familiar to this group and a lot of the folks. So just take a moment to maybe even scroll through and just see who's here. I'm sure you see a lot of familiar faces. All right, and then just if you want to close your eyes, you can do that, or just lower the gaze and just start to feel into this body, into this moment. And starting to notice where the body has contact right now. So contact with the feet on the floor, maybe your seat. Maybe noticing that your back has contact with the back of a chair, or maybe not. Getting a sense of your hands right now. Just noticing the hands, what they're in contact with, maybe the other hand, maybe just resting in your lap. And then if the breath is a good anchor for you, just starting to feel the breath. connecting with the breath. Or if the breath is not comfortable for you to be with today, then maybe choose sound. And just refinding the breath in the body. All right. So I definitely feel more in my body now. I definitely tend to get into my head, especially when like being in front of a lot of people and a lot of people that I don't know. So I definitely have a little bit of nervousness, and where that goes with me is it goes into my head. So just like arriving, like starting with a meditation that is as much for me as it is for you. So here's what I've been thinking for today is I would like to explain and guide us through two practices that are related to pain. And so what I want to say is that so the book that is about to come out, the Outsmart Your Pain, is focused on physical pain. But as we know, right, physical and mental pain are very closely interlinked. So what I find that actually pretty much all the practices in the book are also really applicable for emotional or mental pain, right? But I'm really curious, before we're starting, could you please raise your little hand if you suffer from chronic pain or have pain on a regular basis? So, yeah, and I'm just looking through here. If you don't have your video on, if you could just click like your little like yellow raised hand. All right. Okay. Just looking here. So quite a number. Yeah, of course. Right. Thank you. Thank you. And it makes a lot of sense because, right, the human body will experience pain. Pain is a vital function. And so, and even if we're not experiencing pain right now, physical pain, it's highly, highly likely that we will at some point in our lives, or maybe you have experienced pain, even like for extended periods of time in the past. So, and what I would like to do is, so the two practices that I want to explain and guide us through is, one is more mindfulness focused, and the other is more self-compassion focused. And the way that I am teaching this is that you're probably very aware that like there are these discussions. So is awareness kind? Or is there awareness and kindness? And in the end, I would say it doesn't matter so much, but what we know is that if there is awareness and we experience kindness at the same time, that's what we want, right? So the combination of the two is really what is beneficial and what is healing. And it doesn't matter so much if it's the same thing or if it's just like two ingredients in the same soup, right? Because the way that we experience it is the same. However, I think what is really important to remember is that we have, in a way, a lot more agency over being mindful than we have over being kind or compassionate, right? And you all know this from your own experience. And it's just like, I keep saying that like over and over because we forget, right? We forget that the qualities of kindness or compassion, they're in the area of emotions, and we don't have control over them in the same way that we have over the agency to say, like, I can choose to pay attention to this right now, right? So if I tell you, can you feel your left hand? So if you actually have a left hand, you can feel that, right? You can wiggle that, and then you go, yeah, there's a left hand. You don't have to look. You still know, like, there's a left hand here, and it wiggles, right? You can do that. And you can do that by just choosing to do that, right? And if I say now, please feel compassion towards the pain in your left hand. How's that? Doesn't work that way, doesn't it? And so just to keep that in mind as we're practicing that, what we want to do is we want to deepen both of these practices, but they work a little bit differently, or at least that's how I'm teaching it. So the first thing that I want to do is work a little bit more with a practice that is more mindfulness focused. Doesn't mean you're like, we kick kindness out or something, like, please, like, we always want to invite kindness in. And we also know, again, that we have a lot less agency in the same way over kindness, right? So, and one thing I find really helpful is, so for physical pain, but also for mental pain, to start to become aware what our mind is doing with that pain, right? Because if you're, and that's a question for you, so, and I'll guide us through practice in a moment, because we're all aware of the tendency of the mind to do this rehearsing thing. Yes? Your mind is doing rehearsing. Right? It talks about what happened in the past and it anticipates the future. So what happens when the mind does that around pain? So what happens is, and just making an assumption, there's a question for you. If pain is arising in the present moment, a pain that you have had before, a pain that you've had for quite a while, a pain that has a story, when like painful sensations, physical sensations are arising in the present moment, they're not staying lonely. What's the mind doing, right? At the same time, yes, do you have like thoughts about the past of that pain? Some version of why didn't I, or I can't believe, or that shouldn't, or yes, so some version of that. So the mind comes with something around the pain that happened previously, right? That's not the only thing. What the mind also does is it anticipates what will happen with this pain in an hour, 2 hours, tonight, tomorrow, 2 months, 2 years from now, depending, right? So you're still with me? Yes? So in that moment, often what happens is we are feeling the pain of the present moment, but also we feel in some way the pain of the past. And I don't have a third hand, otherwise I would put that on my 2 hands right now. And we also have the pain of the future. So, and what does that do to the pain of the present moment? Do you think that has an influence? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Right? And we are very often, we're often stuck between these 3 things. And that becomes so painful or so stressful that, of course, we just want to get away. Like, who wants to feel that? Right? So in a way, you're kind of often re-experiencing like the regret, the anger, the confusion, the feeling lost, the pain of the past, and the fear of where might this go? Right? The unknown, or maybe sometimes we know pretty well, honestly, where that is going, right? If you have a disease that is chronically progressive, right? That's super scary, right? You kind of see yourself being like pulled down the line of the unfolding of something that you really, really don't want. And where does that land? Here, in this moment, in this body. And it expresses as stress, right? It often expresses as fear or as anger, as grief, as like this conglomerate, right? And then we're stuck. So what we want to do, just like we do like in regular like mindfulness practice, we want to become aware of this, right? Because like very clearly, what is here right now is now. Past is over. The future isn't here yet. So, and that is what we're working with every time we sit, right? We notice thoughts arising about the past, thoughts arising about the future, and what do? We notice them. We don't feed them. We return to something that is actually here and that is real in the present moment. Something we can rest on. And what is very important is because you might not want to rest on the pain that is actually here right now, because that can also be quite bad, right? But what you also know is that the pain is just a part, the present moment pain is just a part of your experience. It's not who you are, and it's not all of your experience of the present moment. And what we do in these moments is we become more aware what else is here that is real, right? And so when we started out this morning, is just start to orient yourself and know where you are. Do you know where you are right now? Right? So you're in this room today, Friday, February 12th, 2021. That's where you are right now. And then you can see, and that's like, that can be a separate practice, but to see that for most people, most of the time, not the entire body is in pain. Right? Sometimes it is, I totally get that. But for most people, most of the time, there are parts in the body. Often it's actually the majority of the body that is not in pain. Our mind, just by the way it is made to hyper focus and collapse around an experience of pain. Right? Because what is pain, if we think about it from a neurological point of view, it's the body's way, if we talk about physical pain, to tell the brain, pay attention. Right? Like, hello, something's going on here. I need your attention. I need it right now. Makes a lot of sense, right? And I believe, again, this is my belief, is that we basically developed pain as something that was life-saving for acute pain. This is where we need it, right? If you step on something, if you step on a nail, you need to pay attention right now. You can't say like, oh, let me just finish this chapter and then I'll take care of that. It's like, no, your brain will make sure you pay attention right now and you take that nail out, right? Really important, because your survival could be depending on that. The problem is, again, that's my theory, that we don't have another pain system for chronic pain. So our poor nerve endings, and then of course gets very complex, they basically keep saying like, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. Have you noticed that with chronic pain? It's really, really tiring. And then you go like, I've paid attention. Gosh, you got 2 surgeries here, right? There's nothing wrong. You shouldn't be actually like telling me right now I'm in pain. Yet brain, like the nervous system is doing that, because that's what it does around pain. So that is something we have to take also in consideration when we're working with chronic pain, collapsing. So, and what we do is, we know that from our mindfulness practice, when we collapse around something, it gives us the impression that that is all there is, right? If you have a pain, right? If you have a painful joint or something, can feel that you just exist. That's who you are. You're that painful knee or that painful shoulder. Everything else gets kind of obliterated. And what we do is just, like we do in our practice, we open up, right? It's like, no, I get it. And the other shoulder is not in pain. The other knee is not in pain. Like, right? So you keep adding to this. And with that, you start to create space. And with that, you can start to change your experience of pain. All right, so that was a lot of words. I hope it makes sense and I haven't lost you with this. And so should we practice that? Yeah, give it a little practice round. Okay, cool. So let's just, again, find a comfortable posture. And just start your meditation the way you always start your meditation. Just starting to arrive, to settle. Maybe finding the breath. And then noticing if there is right now something that is painful. And for those of you who have physical pain, please choose that. Really, really important. Please don't overwhelm yourself, right? So always like stop, come out, open your eyes if it just feels too much. And if there are several areas that are in pain, just choose the one you want to work with today that calls you. And then with awareness, and possibly with kind awareness, just turning towards where you experience the pain in this moment. And again, you can also choose an emotional pain, something painful. And then see if you can become aware as you are just bringing awareness to this. If you can become aware of the pain story of the past that might be here, or that you know is often arising when the pain flares up. And see if you can become aware with some distance, some space around that, so that you don't get sucked in, or if you noticed you get sucked in, and you notice that by suddenly being in the story instead of being aware of it. Then just coming back to the breath, opening your eyes. And then go back in. The pain story of the past. And maybe just notice, what is that doing to you? How does that feel to become aware or to have that pain story present? Again, with a lot of gentleness, pausing, stepping back as needed. And again, there are often emotions that will arise around that. And can you also hold them with kindness and understanding? And just maybe starting to see what we call actions have consequences. So when we have these thoughts, when we have this story running, and we believe in it, we fall for it, what's the consequence of that? How does that make you feel? How does that make you act? How does that make you show up for this moment and for your life? And then in your own time, releasing the pain story of the past, just allowing it to move into the background again. Feeling the breath, feeling the whole body. And then in your mind's eye, turning to the familiar pain story of the future. Is there something that is familiar? Like, what is your mind saying, believing, telling you when it pulls up the pain story of the future? And again, just take your time, pace yourself, go in and out, but just become aware. Just become aware. Like, what's the storyline about this pain and you? And what is that doing to your experience of this moment? How does that make you act and show up for your life when you listen to that story? And then now also letting go of that storyline, allowing that to, again, just drop back to the background. And then, as the last step, bringing awareness to the actual pain in this moment. What is actually here, under or behind the pain story? If whatever you're experiencing right in this moment had no story, what would be here? And then actually, I hadn't really planned on this, but since we're already here with the pain, let's just move right into a little bit of kindness and self-compassion practice here. So as you're here with this pain, like stripped of the story, maybe seeing if it's possible to offer yourself some kindness for that, for the fact that there is pain in this moment. And maybe seeing that this is not who you are. Human beings have pain. And if you like, I already saw some people doing that, maybe placing a hand on the chest or on the part that is in pain. Just like this, like physical support, this physical gesture of saying, like, I'm here. I see you. I'm with you. And maybe finding some words first of just acknowledging that, yeah, this hurts. This is painful. And just letting that really, like letting like this gesture, the hand on the chest or the hand on the part of the pain or holding your own hand or whatever works for you, let that body language land. Let your animal body understand this gesture, this presence of right here, right now, not alone, but being with. The worst thing that can happen to us is not being in pain, but being alone with our pain. So just acknowledging the truth of this moment. Maybe with a kind internal voice saying like, yeah, this hurts. Just like the way you would acknowledge that to a friend or loved one, saying like, yeah, I get it. That's a moment of pain and it's bad. And I'm here. I'm here with you. And then allowing yourself to, in your mind's eye, realize that you're not the only person who has pain or who has this pain, and not as a way to diminish that, but in your mind's eye, see if you can, or in your heart's eye, see if you can connect with all the people who have ever felt this kind of pain before, or who have been feeling it, or who are feeling it in this moment. Just like internally, like reach out with your little feelers into the world. kind of finding all the people who can say, yeah, me too, me too. I know that pain. I've had it. I have it. I still have it. And in whatever way, kind of invite them being close to you, maybe sitting around you in a circle or sitting behind you, having your back, reaching out and saying like, yeah, me too, me too. I know that pain. I know that pain. And maybe letting yourself feel a little bit held by that. That you're not alone in this. That this is part of humanness. That human beings experience this kind of pain. There's nothing wrong with you. And even if the pain stories of the past and the future sneak back in, then include that. Say, like, yeah, right? We humans, we tell us these stories. We're affected by our past and our anticipated future. And that is part of being human too. So, really, that nothing that you're experiencing right now is wrong. It's just what it is in this moment. And it's deeply human. You're part of the tribe. And we'll be slowly bringing this practice to an end. So just taking this next minute or so to just do what you need to do to close the practice. Maybe inviting a little bit of movement in, releasing Any stories or images? Reorienting yourself in the room. Again, with us here. I'd love to hear from some of you, or if there are any questions, or just sharing about your experience with that particular practice.
So if you'd like to share, there's going to be a participants icon at the bottom of your screen. I think you can raise your hand there, but if not, the reactions button will also have a little link to raise your hand. So raise your hand through there so I can see you. If you raise your hand on the screen, we'll probably find you. It might be a little more difficult. We'll probably find you as well. So. Hi, Liz. I'm inviting you to unmute your mic. There you go.
Hi. Hi, good to be here. And I love participating with people from England and Italy in my little group. That's really fun. Wonderful community. For me, I've just started having a lot of pain in the last 6 months, I'm 81 years old and I moved to a new place, and I think I'm highly allergic to something in the environment, and I can't move, so I have to live with this somehow. But what's happening, and I'm just starting to work on it, and thank you, and I'm taking your class, Christiane, the 4 classes that are coming up. You might want to tell people about that. But for me, there's a lot of fear, and it's causing depression, and I'm waiting for it to hit me again, and I'm scared. And I'm trying not to take medication because I have lots of side effects. So this is very good for me. I was thrilled when the topic came up at Inside LA. So I want to learn now that I'm not in so much pain, what to do when it starts again.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Liz. And I'm sorry. It's has been there for 6 months. And yeah, I mean, like, of course, all of that comes up, right? I'm sure that everybody with chronic pain can relate to that. Like just the uncertainty of that, right? And nobody wants to be in pain, of course. And yet here it is. And I really believe that, like, mindfulness and kindness, and with kindness practices, I really mean self-compassion, compassion, kindness, just in general, is they're protectors. I mean, that's what the Buddha taught. They're protectors for pain, right? So when we talk about like dukkha, right? So the word for suffering or pain in Pali, right? So the word that the Buddha actually used is that's what our practice is. And if we really take that to heart, right, we can be with this human condition with a lot less added pain. And the fear is painful. And so what we're learning really is like, so for fear in particular, so we have like these ways that we can allow fear, not let it take over and run our narrative, which it tends to do, right? Especially fear about the future. And we can also, again, just hold that with a lot of compassion. Say, oh, it's so hard to feel fear. And of course you would feel fear. right? And then you're again like in the territory that we really explored in this meditation. Just being aware and then holding what we're aware of with love. And we're connecting. We're connecting, so we're not trying to deny or to push away or to suppress, which are usually our natural responses to pain, right? So, and this is radically different from what most of us have learned and practiced, honestly, like all of our life, right? Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Liz. Good to see you. Good to see you. Mike, I see your little hand up. I'm inviting you to unmute right now.
Hi, okay, I'm unmuted. Good. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Christine, for that. That was a wonderful meditation. It really reminded me of what I've been practicing. I spent a lot of my life running away from pain, or avoiding pain, or trying to stuff it down, or trying to avoid it. And what I ended up doing was I caused myself a great deal of suffering.
Yes.
Because of it.
Yes.
And I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to make those choices anymore. So and I've been told, and this does work, that if you turn towards the pain and sit with the pain and befriend the pain, that it lessens the pain. And something that I shared in the small group, I'll share it here, was a couple of years ago. I was riding my motorcycle in the wintertime, and it was very cold out. It was about 19 degrees Fahrenheit. I was going down the highway about 65, 70 miles an hour, and I was shivering. I was well layered, but I was shivering. And I'm saying, oh, it's so cold. And I took a breath, and I just took a breath, and I let it out. And in that breath, I just relaxed into it. And I stopped shivering. It was still cold, but I was in a different space. And I was actually able to enjoy the ride. And it was just a wonderful experience. And ever since then, whenever I ride the motorcycle in the cold, I remember that experience.
That's such a beautiful example, Mike. Yeah, that's a really beautiful example for life, right? So if we could like kind of stop fighting and connect. Mm-hmm. Not always, obviously, but often it's just like we can enjoy the ride more.
Yeah. It's the difference between being present or fighting it and not being present.
Yeah.
Just trying to, push through it. Yeah. And I don't have to do that anymore unless I choose to. But then I can catch myself and then be present again.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful practice. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Mike. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I see Luz. Luz, I'm inviting you to unmute. Good to see you.
Hey, Luz. Good to see you.
Hi. I just want to say I'm in teacher heaven at the moment with two of my favorites. I'm so giddy. Thank you so much for that practice. I was able to go pretty deep into it and into different layers. And at some point, I was focusing on a shoulder pain, but at some point, emotional pain came up, and I was able to understand that I relate to my emotional pain the same way I relate to my physical pain, which I have a tendency of ignoring it, stuffing it down as much as possible, or as you said, collapsing around it. So that really landed how you had explained how these concepts apply for both, because I was able to see that I relate to both the same kind of way. Yeah. And then the question of how does it show up and how does that make you show up in the world was really profound. And of course, I want a binary answer, right? So what do I do about that? But don't give me now the answer. But I'll sit with that. So just thank you so much. It really was really wonderful. And then the group experience was also wonderful because we relate to pain, even though our pain is different, right? One was in our hands, one was in the shoulder, one was in the belly. We're all kind of having the same experience around it. And so that was really profound too. So thank you so much.
Right, to know. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah, so nice to see you.
Thank you, Luz. So I'm seeing Richard next. Richard, I'm inviting you to unmute your mic. There you go. Richard, I think you're muted again, so there you go.
I think I've got it now. Hi, Alex. Nice to see you.
Hi. Good to see you.
Thank you for the heads up. And thank you, Dr. Wolf, for beautiful meditation and a lot to think about. Just in background, not sure whether it matters or not, but the pain I'm dealing with on multiple levels. I've been dealing with neuropathic pain in my legs, particularly for about a decade. Seems like forever. I was hospitalized a few weeks ago for a week. My potassium level shot through the roof and had a lot of kidney problems. And it was really rough. And I had a very near-death experience in the hospital. And then I get out, and the situation that had just begun was extremely aggravated. And that's a problem between my knee and my hip. And it's grinding pain, which has really gone through the roof itself. And all of this is happening because of the kidney problems. They've decreased, of course, the morphine that I was on because it's negative impact on the kidneys. So I'm dealing with much less pain medication, high increase in pain. The fear I know about on a really deep level.
You're muted again, Richard. Sorry. It switched back to mute. We can't hear you right now. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. So I almost wish it was something, if it would have required a cast for 6 weeks, and be done with it. But now I'm just looking at new levels of increased pain. All of this has affected my practice. And I'm finding it much more difficult to sit down and actually meditate.
Of course. Yes.
So I'm down to really short sessions. And, you know, even though the positive reinforcement is there in today's practice, because I did find that I was much less aware of the pain at one point. I'm not sure which, because I was also nodding off. Your voice is very pleasant. So, I was sharing in the group, it's this chronic, ridiculous levels of pain have had the effect of turning me into a really angry person. Incredible frustration.
Yes.
And anger.
Yes.
And to let go of that alone is almost a Herculean task for me.
Yes.
And combine that with a lot of difficulty. Sorry, I lost the thought. Anyway, so all of these things are just kind of putting me in a place where, even though I know this is what I want to do, this is what I need to do, here's positive reinforcement of it, every time I sit down, it's just got to get over the fear.
Yes.
I'm not a fan of the body scan, as Alex well knows. And that's because I've always felt, why do I need to invite that pain in? It's banging at the door, loud and clear.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my situation.
Richard, thank you. No, thank you for sharing that. And I'm really sorry it's so bad. I hear that. Because it's often like this cascade, right? So when the pain gets worse, of course, also our reaction towards the pain gets worse. Anger, fear, grief, right? This whole like, and especially like, I don't know how old you are, but of course, like mortality is knocking at the door, right? And so that is also like really, really hard for us to see. And so, you know, two things I want to say, and then we don't have a ton of time, but so one is honestly at this point, the pain level, this is really important, the pain levels can be too high to practice with mindfulness with. Right? So it feels like there's quite a lot that we can practice with. And then if the pain levels are super high, then it's too much. It's too much. So just to know that, because then we think like, oh, I've been a meditator and then what's with me, right? And then we feel a failure on top of that. So just know that, no, there is a level that we can practice with. And then please do anything that you know that helps you to kind of get through it, distract yourself. Like distraction is fabulous, right? So like this, we want to have the tool of distraction in our toolbox, but we want to use it wisely, right? We're very grateful for pain medication. Oh my gosh, right? Like where would we be without pain medication? But what we want is we want to use all these tools together. That's really important, right? We want to have more in our toolbox. So that's really important. But what do you do when it gets so overwhelming, honestly, right? So one thing, and this is really a hard practice, and I have to say it's in particular hard practice for men, is surrender. Is surrender. And there is, I actually have to look it up because on top of my head, I don't even know like where that is in the teachings, but there is this story of basically where the instructions are, if nothing works, you just lay down and put your head in the lap of the Buddha. And that is something to know that this is part of our set of instructions, I find really helpful, because I know we get to at the end of like anything we feel we can do. right? And at that point, to actually really say, okay, that's it. I'm just not, I'm not big enough. I'm not spacious enough. I'm not enlightened enough. And without any judgment, right? To hold this. And this can also be like if you have like a horrible loss in your life, when it's just like it's too overwhelming, to just say like, please take it over. Whoever will take it over, like what your idea of that is, right? And sometimes that's all we can do. And that in itself is a really deep practice, because that is really hard to do at times. So thank you. Thank you, Richard.
I will try that. It's very good advice. And I think bringing loving kindness into it, which
Yes.
is
Yes.
another challenge for me,
It is.
you know,
It is.
is the best way to approach it. But the idea of just, you know, surrendering, as you were saying it, I was thinking about putting your face close to the earth.
Yeah.
Not having a strong Buddhist background.
Yeah.
That's the way
Yeah,
I
I mean,
thought of
yeah.
it, but I certainly understand the idea. It's
Yeah, you
great.
get the idea, right? Yes. And then you
Yeah.
translate that into like what makes sense to you. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
thank you. And you get a lot of love in the chat box. I'm not sure if you can see that on your phone, but yeah. So
I did see a few, and if you'll indulge me for a second, just a big hi to everybody. It's nice to see you all.
yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Christiane, we're right at top of the hour right now. Do we have time for maybe one more? I want to be very mindful of your time as well and respectful. So
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, one more, please.
one more. Okay. Okay. So Pauline, you had your hand up for a little while. So here we go. I'm gonna invite you to unmute. Good to see you, by the way.
Thank you. You too. Good to see everyone. I was just saying in our breakout, it's kind of the highlight of my week, these 2 days. I really, really enjoy it. And thank you, Christine. It's lovely to have a chance to work with you. So my thought was, I know there's a couple other people in this group that are struggling with what I am, and that's mortality. Being told we have X amount of time to live. And I'm not a proponent for statistics, and I chose to move my healing in that direction, which was alternative medicine, and having to put boxing gloves on every time I go into the doctor because I look great and they don't believe what I'm doing is working. So when I go into this meditation, when I went today, what I found was the past, of course, was fear, you know, being told that it's come back, which was stage 4 ovarian cancer.
Oh.
And the other is maybe you could help me understand how I could stay out of the projected mind, you know, of oh my gosh, there's that pain that I felt, you know, 2 years ago.
Exactly.
And is there a way that we could possibly, I know it would be to stay in the moment and to breathe and but maybe you have any other insight to that?
You know, Pauline, it's thank you for sharing that. And yes, super scary, right? That does, like, these projections do a total number on our brain and our heart, of course. And yeah, I think you know the practice if you've been doing this for a while, right? So exactly, like really staying in this moment with kindness. So like, it's like we try to be kind and firm, and to say like, no, we're not going there, right? Not with, like, not dismissive, not judgmental, but just saying like, thank you, not now. So that's a phrase that I like a lot. Thank you, not now, right? So like, let me just be with this here. And self-compassion, of course you would feel that way. That's just a natural response. But then also, Pauline, and this is for all of us, honestly, like the Buddhist teachings, so for those of you interested in that, are full of reflections about mortality. Tons and tons of practices. And that's not to be morbid. It's just like, guys, let's wake up. We don't know when we're gonna die. You might be dead tomorrow. What would you regret? Right? And I think that can actually be quite helpful for all of us to say, like, right, like live your life as if mortality was really like a friend, right? Like most people who died today, they didn't wake up this morning thinking they would die today.
That's true.
Right? And just to keep that in mind, and just like, let's not be so afraid of this, but let's use it to really, live our lives more fully. All the dawdling and the distractions is like, would that change if we would really take this reflections on mortality more seriously? And I've heard that, and I stopped with that. I don't know if that, like, where I read that, doesn't matter, but like of a woman who actually, and I think it was somebody who had cancer, who said, like, right, like that she lived like this the last year of her life. She put more life into that than the like 60 years before, all of her life, right? Because she had like, right, she was actually there. And we know this, like how much time just like it slips through our fingers. My oldest just turned 18. Like, how did that happen? So just some thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's
And
wonderful.
A lot of tenderness.
Thank you. There's a wonderful app that I got when I first was diagnosed. Somebody suggested it, and it's called We Croak.
Yeah, I know that.
It's a fabulous app, and the Bhutanese believe that if you think about death 5 times a day, you live a more joyous life. And I have to tell you, this app makes me laugh at least 1 time a day. At least out of the 5. So it's a good one.
We Croak. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
yeah,
you.
and I also, I just want to say, and I know, like, thank you, it has been put into the chat box a number of times. I'll be teaching a 4-week session on chronic pain starting next Thursday. So with the link is in the chat box. So if you suffer from chronic pain, and it is mostly like focused on physical pain, but yeah, you might want to join us. So. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Christiane, for being here. This has been incredible. And thank you all for sharing and for really just being so open in this way. And so really want to thank you also for being here. And Pauline, if you don't mind writing the name of that app in the chat, I'm sure others would love to laugh and just have a good time with that too. I think it'll be helpful to others as well. So thank you, everybody. And I think we are pretty much due with time, but maybe we can just sit just for a little bit all together, close our session together as we often do. So maybe just taking a moment to just settle in again on our seats. And just becoming aware of what's here for you right now. And allowing, if it's inviting, a sense of gratitude to this moment towards yourself for being here, for taking the time, and also extending our gratitude to Christiane for being here with us and for sharing all her knowledge with us. Maybe we can offer whatever it is that we have learned today to everybody else out there in the world that doesn't have this opportunity, the opportunity that we have to practice in this way, to be together in this way, to share with one another. And wishing whoever might be out there suffering of pain, whether it's physical or emotional, wishing them well-being, wishing them comfort. So maybe taking in a deep breath and exhaling all out. Thank you, everybody. And